Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Create. Today we're going to be covering water wheels and windmills, how they work, and how you can make them work with cogwheels and gearboxes to hopefully power crushing wheels, thus getting you a whole bunch of increased output from your mining endeavors. Not to say that that's the only way that this can be beneficial. There are many ways that this can be beneficial, but there's a lot going on behind me, as you can see, or in front of me rather. But we're going to start off with some of the basic stuff here. This is a water wheel, and yes, I've made it look pretty, at least somewhat pretty. In my mind it is. And there are, of course, windmills. First, the water wheel is going to be used to make rotational force. Same thing with windmills can be used, and those can be amplified to speed up things so that you can get really increased outputs like you were seeing over there for some of the gears. Now, what benefits might this have? Well, besides being aesthetic and looking really pretty, you've got these, your crushing wheels, which can be used to increase your outputs of all sorts of stuff. If you look at this, you can toss things in the top here between them. They will start creating all sorts of really good outputs, even getting you like things like, like nether quartz, a 50% chance from things like granite and diorite and all that other stuff. So you can potentially get a whole bunch of really good items from that, allowing you to do even more aesthetic builds. But still, these, basically, you just place it down and you need to have some water source flowing with it. Recipe's rather cheap. You know, you've got your cogwheel prices, you've got buttons and planks, then you've got andesite alloy, which is made from iron nuggets and andesite. These are your basics for most of what you're going to be building for connecting all these things together. Shafts will be important. They are just andesite alloy. You get a whole bunch of them from that as well. You just put it on the side, as you saw there, and you just click it, and things will start turning if you have some kind of water flowing with it. If I just place down a water wheel, it's just going to sit there. I can pour water on top of it, and then it will potentially start flowing in one direction or another. It'll flow better if you have water going against the paddles, therefore kind of pushing it a little bit better, as opposed to going the other direction, but it will still flow in either direction that you want. If you don't want it facing this direction, simply turn around, place it the other side. That's just pretty much how easy it is. And you might need to place it up against a block in order to better accommodate that type of feature. As you can see here, it's sitting above still water and it's not going to work. Now, adding more or less water to this isn't really going to increase its speed. It's going to go at a relatively normal speed. You can hook it up to other items that currently have, rotational spin to it. As you can see here, I've got it hooked up to a crushing wheel that is now spinning it as well. But this isn't necessarily going to help things. You're going to be wanting to use water wheels and windmills to actually power other stuff. So next, let's go over to the windmills. These require a little bit more fanciful stuff here. Let me turn one off and show you how this works. So we're going to want to build some of these things and parts that we have in place. Grab this and this and this. Now we've got a mechanical bearing. If you hold shift or control with a lot of the items in this mod, you will start seeing that there are lots of tooltips that can help you to understand and do just about everything. So if I start with a mechanical bearing, let's actually build up a little bit just so that I have a spot to work with. There we go. So you want it to be like this little wood structure on the side facing out, and this little like axle area at the back. This is going to be the front of your windmill. Then you can put blocks on the side of it. Currently, it's only going to accept wool of some sort. Put a little bit around here. We're going to put this around it, and it's going to spin, right? No. This actually helps make your rotation chassis spin. So by right-clicking on here, you can see it now has the number 8. And it'll be on just about any side that you look at. And this is the radius that it will include for spinning, but it has to also be attached. You'll need to take slime balls, click them on the sides that you want it to actually, stick to. There we go. And then if you look at the side that it is here and you look at the number and you use your mouse wheel to scroll, you can actually rotate it down to whatever radius you want it to cover. Don't want to do that? Just look away, and then you can scroll again and use it like normal. Then you place your wool that you want on the sides. Let's see if I can actually get up here. There we go. and you're ready to start, actually. All you need then is just some kind of lever at the back, and it'll start spinning. Now you notice this one is spinning much slower than these other ones were going. This one is going much faster, and that one's going even faster still. Reason being is that this is just really, really tiny. If you have it set up to be much larger, like instead of 1, you could increase it up to 8 length, which is what this one is. And it's just a bunch of wool strapped on the outside of this thing. If you don't get chopped by these blades or anything, they become, just you can just go right through them, no clip mode. Turn off the lever, it'll go back to its default setting, and everything becomes solid again, allowing you to edit this as you so desire. If you look, of course, we've got the sticky setting on this side. If I try spinning this now, it's just going to pass through it, and you see it's kind of wonky at this point. So let's just undo that, and we can reattach this, and it goes. Now, what benefit do either of these have, the water mill or the water wheel and the windmill? By adding a shaft to one of the sides, it will start spinning, giving you rotational force. Now, obviously, this is going to be a bit faster already than your standard windmill or water wheel, which starts off at a rather slow pace. And I'm just going to use the water wheel here as kind of a starting point, because obviously, the bigger this gets, the more rotational force you can get off of it. It's not the case with the water wheel. But there is something you should know, is that if you have diagonals, it will not actually start spinning those on your windmills. There we go. As you can see, it will actually break off of it. So you have to have a solid connection. Like, there we go. And that now will spin. So you have to have a block-to-block setting. Now, if you place down a water wheel, all I have here is just one block of water pushing off to the side. Here, I'll even destroy that water. Everything stops. It might take a moment for everything to grind down to a halt, but then it will just slow down eventually, letting that villager go, and so on. So what we want to do is keep it going with this water. Now, some of these are still actually spinning because they've got different setups going on in place. But you can see now that I have this water pushing against it. Like I said, if you put the water over here and it's pushing with this, it'll actually go a little bit slower still. But I'm just going to go with this being the standard. All right? So with that in mind, you can put several things on the side of it. You can put a shaft and then work from the shaft onto other things, including conveyors, but we're not covering that in today's episode. Gearboxes, which gearboxes come in a variety of things. You've got your standard gearbox, which is made from andesite alloy, some wood, and some cogwheels. And I've got these over here. These are your basics for getting your rotational speed up higher or just moving shafts and things around. You've got your shafts, your small cogwheel, your large cogwheel, your gearbox, which actually, if I go into this, I can just convert it to be a different angle. So therefore it's, horizontal or vertical. And then you've got your encased shaft, which an encased shaft is really just one of these, which depending upon where you place it, it will then, let's put it on the side of something, it will stick out like this. You can use it for aesthetics if you want. It could be pretty cool. Or you can actually use it as part of this setup. An encased shaft is just this. It just allows you to kind of create a pass-through so that it can go into this other room. Instead of you having this big open gaping hole in your house, you could use an encased shaft. Then you can put up next to it some kind of gearbox, as you can see here, but in that case, it wasn't working properly. So if I put one gearbox here, you can see that on the sides here and here, it will not connect properly. You can put something there, but it's not going to spin it. And then the other one is for the opposite direction. So therefore, you can make right angles going up and down. And this one, you can make right angles going left and right. You can also pass straight through any of those as well. Now, moving on from that, you can increase the rotational force that this will generate by adding a whole bunch of cogs in a specific fashion. So let me empty these out a little bit and get some of these small cogs and some of these big cogs over here as well. And if you look here, this currently has a gearbox on it just to connect to this. In fact, I could probably remove that and just put a regular shaft going straight across. But you want to start off with a large wheel. Just remember, you want the wheel that's about the same size as the water wheel to start with, and then you go to a smaller wheel off of that. On the same shaft, you add another large wheel, and then it repeats. Small wheel, large wheel. And if you want to connect these together, if you look here, I can't put anything in this square here. I can't put anything in this square. Whether it be small wheel or big wheel, it will not fit. You have to put it diagonal for it to be a big to small fitting. If you want it to be a big to big, you have to kind of put it a little bit, yeah, it's not really going to work so good. So they're created to only work with the small wheels at the diagonal. Now, if I were to put one here, they would continue on with the same speed. Just going from one to the other to the big, small, big will not increase the speed. It has to be on a big and a small on the same shaft. And then from that, let's bring this up, will increase the speed further. So essentially you'd go small, big, and therefore any speed that you have going on from that will start increasing as it goes out. Now, what happens if I were to place a small one here? Now, in this place, nothing is actually spinning, so it would work. But in this kind of scenario over here, where I have this, if I try placing a small gear, so you see how slow this one is going, and how this one is going much faster, it won't place. It'll actually break immediately and not allow it to happen, because the gears would actually end up grinding, and yeah, it just doesn't work that way. But you can keep going several stages higher. Now, starting off with your standard water wheel speed, I'm calling that level 1. You can increase it by up to about 10.5 levels of speed, but it doesn't mean that that's necessarily a good thing. So as you can see, just by constantly adding more and more and more and more, you can get it up to this 10th level speed with these crazy crushing wheels, and including some crazy villagers doing breakdancing. On top of that, you can add one more half size, like the small cog, but if you try enlarging it any bigger than that, it will instantly break, because it's just too fast at that point, which makes sense. I mean, otherwise you get it infinitely faster. There's got to be a stopping point at some point. The friction is just too great. Now that we've got some of the general idea, let's talk about the gearboxes a bit. They allow you to create joints. If you look here, I just put, let's grab a regular gearbox on the side. And you can see that both sides will start spinning, therefore allowing you to actually make right turns with this. Now, if you notice, though, it is spinning this way, but this is actually spinning in the opposite direction, like clockwise, and that's going counterclockwise. That is because of how the gears would work inside. If you look this up online, you'll probably understand a little bit better how this might work. But this will allow you to split things off. It does not actually reduce how much force this creates or anything. There's no friction in this Minecraft version here, per se. So you can infinitely just keep on branching off, as far as I'm aware. I mean, maybe there is some kind of limit to it, but you can see that this just keeps on going and going. And you notice now that these two are at opposite sides. They're going in opposite directions, clockwise and counterclockwise. This is the basis for what you're going to need in order to use the grinding wheels, or other things that you so desire. If you need to switch things out, or you need to go up, you notice that there's no way of going up with this one. You would therefore need to use the other gearbox. There we go, the one that allows vertical movement, and then you can go from there back into perhaps another one, and then, oops, let's spin this over here, and then we could go back here, and then we could go there, and you can see we now have the same thing above each other, going in opposite directions. It can be a little bit tricky trying to understand how this works, but it's actually rather fun once you figure out how the basics work on this. But let's get into how some of this stuff can be useful. There is one other thing that I did mention. Obviously, you see here a turntable. It will actually turn entities that sit on it. I am not spinning my mouse. This is just doing this by itself. Therefore, you can get kind of a cool panorama view if you want, sort of like your Minecraft startup screen there. But if you have it going fast enough, it will actually keep entities in place, because they won't be able to move. In this case, I name tagged this guy so that he would break dance for me. Now, let's talk about crushing wheels. These here are made with polished andesite alloy. There's a lot of andesite in this. You'll probably want to keep a bunch of it on hand. And a large cog wheel will get you one of these. You will need two for them to be really that useful. As I showed you before, you can still bridge off of these and so on, allowing you a certain measure of, expandability or making more of these. But one thing you're not going to want to do is what I've got there is difficult to actually see. Let's go with a really slow one. Is you want them to go in opposite directions. Sort of like how I had, let's break some of these up here. Put down another one of these and one of these. How these are going in opposite directions, if I were to show you like that. So your basic idea is you just want to have a couple gearboxes, a bunch of shafts, and well, you don't even need the shafts. You can just put these right on the front if you so desire. Let's put this right here. See, it'll hook right up to it. So you don't even need those. You could save yourself the shafts if you want, but they are pretty dirt cheap. And then you create yourself a crushing wheel setup. Now, how does this work? Effectively, you put some items in the top. Let's toss in some cobblestone. It will slowly start grinding this away. In this case, I'm opening that up, and it will actually do entire stacks at a time, or a stack at a time, up to. And then boom, you get an output. In this case, it's a bunch of gravel. Cool. You might get extra outputs from this stuff. You want them to actually be going in the same, well, in this case, this isn't going to work quite as well as one might hope. Because if you look, this is going up, so therefore it's pushing the items up. You don't want to do this setup. You want to do the one that I had before. So they're both going down. How to reverse this? You can just switch the gearboxes around, move it over a little bit, something along those lines. Or you can even put a gearbox next to a gearbox, and that often will switch things around. There are multiple ways of doing so. So let's say you've got what I have here, a mistake. You can't really tell that it's going so fast right now, what direction it's actually going in. But when you go to throw things in there, let's grab some cobblestone. Oh, and I just deleted that. Let's grab some cobblestone, throw it down there, and it just sits there doing nothing. That probably means that they're going in the wrong direction. This is level 10. You can actually get this to work. If I did mention that it was improper in the past, that was a mistake. So what you need to do is reverse these. Just put a gearbox, any old gearbox will do, whether it be horizontal or vertical, and that should invert that's the easiest way for me to think of for you to do it without having to move your entire setup. So now if I do this and I toss in that, it grinds them up and gives us the goods. So there you go. And just for argument's sake, because that went so darn fast, here is 3 stacks of cobble. 1, 2, and 3. Done. It's that fast, folks. Really good stuff. If I want, I can toss in a bit of cobblestone. Let's toss in an entire stack. Do that, and it will crush it, and boom. You get yourself a whole bunch of gravel, as you can see here. Now, there may be, as I said before, alternate ways of getting this stuff done. Let's toss both of these in. It'll take 1 stack at a time. And you'll notice lots of different things came out of that one, and even more stuff came out of that. Well, that's because, if you look in here, we've got all sorts of different outputs going on. We were able to get clay and bone meal and all sorts of stuff. The outputs you can get from these can definitely increase your yield, if you will. Let's toss in iron and gold. 5 and 5 of each of those, right? Toss that in there. As well as, you know what? Let's get a villager. See what happens when I spawn one in here. Whoops, that didn't work. Oh, hey, he volunteered. Look at that. Yeah, you don't want to step in between there. You will end up getting killed. Feel free to experiment yourself. Don't listen to this guy over here. He's telling you no. But, get out of the way. I'm trying to open this. You can see that we've got still all those items that we had before. Lime sand, which, by the way, can be used to make limestone and all sorts of really pretty items in Create. You can see we got 5 gold ingots plus 12 gold nuggets as a side effect. This one, 5 iron ingots and an extra 22 iron nuggets. It automatically turns them into ingots and nuggets. You don't even need to smelt it. So this is free once you have this set up. That's right, friend. Free. So you don't have to spend any more charcoal or anything like that. All at the power of hydro, or water, rather, or some kind of air power that you might have built as well. So that pretty much covers everything that you have here. It's pretty crazy and really cool, very dangerous, but also very, very effective. Yes, he is so excited. He's dancing in circles. So I hope you guys enjoyed this bit by bit on Create. If you'd like to see more, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, come visit us on Twitch most nights around 10 p.m. UK time. We'll see you there. Bye.